Today, my friends and I will be talking about how literary elements in Frankenstein by the author Mary Shelley portray to Gothicism. Let's go! Hello, I'm Mary Shelley, and today I'll be discussing my 1818 novel, Frankenstein, along with some of my notes that I have not shared with anyone.
Who and what motivated you to write your novel?
I think ultimately the main reason that I decided to write this was because of my husband and things that I was experiencing at the time, and I wanted to find a character that so accurately displayed what I was feeling inside.
How did the idea of this story come to you?
I think when I was talking to my friend Lord Byron, we were talking about this Charles Darwin and his creations. We thought what would happen if a corpse could be reanimated. And then later that night, I laid down and had the most vivid dream with a monster coming to me, flashy and giant and big and yellow. And then I decided to write the monster that Victor saw in his dreams the same way, to portray that character really coming to life.
Did you use your experiences as a part of your characters?
When you've experienced as much loss and isolation and loneliness as I have, just losing so many people, children, mother, husband, even a half-sister, just like Victor does eventually, it just makes you want to write about it. And especially with the things that I've struggled about after having a baby, you get isolated. Even when you're pregnant, you get isolated. And there's this stigma around that women aren't allowed to talk about it, which I think is just completely untrue. And I wanted to show that Frankenstein, being kind of the father to this monster, was just like having a baby for the first time and being like, what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of this child?
Frankenstein was written in 1818. At this time, there were many changes happening in Europe and America, including the Scientific Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, and the French and American Revolutions. She was also influenced a lot by Gothic literature, which was a new genre at that time.
Gothicism is a genre that has very specific elements that needs to be included in it. And something really big is that Gothicism is mainly a mood throughout books. The supernatural elements of Gothicism are very evident in Frankenstein, especially when Victor Frankenstein gives life to the body that he sewed together. Gothicism also includes isolation, which is very evident when Victor is emotionally isolated from all his family and friends by being completely sad very often. This is also clear when Victor geographically isolates himself, when he is obsessed with building his monster. One more really important aspect of Gothicism is the mood that the setting and scenery sets upon the characters in the novel. This mood is most often seen as dark, dreary, isolated, and gloomy, and in Frankenstein is most evident when Victor creates his monster, and that night was described as very dark and dreary. The setting is also very often seen in Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde not only correlates with Gothicism, but with Frankenstein as well. For example, in this short story, this shows up when Jekyll cannot determine when he turns into Jekyll and when he turns into Hyde. This also shows up in Frankenstein when Victor begins to turn into his monster and loses all emotional control over his well-being. Victor begins to turn into his creation by sharing multiple parallels and traits throughout the book. Victor himself also admits to losing all control and not being able to hide the, quote, harrowing sensations, end quote. In Jekyll and Hyde, Jekyll had a lot of trouble resisting to turn into Hyde. This correlates to the theme of Frankenstein, which is we are the monsters we create. This is very important because Victor begins to become his monster. The monster is thought of as terrible when in reality, Victor is this monster as well.
Now we are going to discuss some of the main symbols that we found that are most relevant to Gothicism in the book. First, I'd just like to start off with saying that I think light and darkness represent physical symbols of feelings of happiness and sadness, and that could contribute to Victor's isolation that he brought himself from.
Exactly, because I think a lot of the time especially when he's creating his monster, he's isolated himself physically from his family, and the weather and like the sky is often seen as dark when he's isolated.
And also when the sun is out, it's really bright and light, and that's when they're the happiest.
He's also calmed down by the sun.
Is there another symbol that we
I found eyes as a really big symbol, and I thought that it meant truth, especially when on page 151, where the quote goes, I now felt as if a film had been taken before my eyes, and that I for the first time saw clearly. Like, that shows like his eyes have been deceiving him for a long time, and the fact that he can finally see clearly, like through his eyes, just shows that they reveal the truth to a person.
have any other symbols that we want to bring up?
There was another symbol that was fire, and I don't think it was as important as eyes, definitely. But I thought it meant society, because the monster, his first word and the first thing he was obsessed with was society. And a lot of people, when you're born, you don't know anything, and like as you grow, you learn about the world around you, which is learning about society. And then as you grow more and more, you're obsessed with fitting into society. And it always looks nice and welcoming, just like it looked nice and welcoming to the monster. And the second he put his hands in it, like it burned him.
Which is kind of his experience with society.
Yeah.
Because when he tried to enter society, they just basically burned him.
Exactly.
We took a little trip back in time to Frankenstein's world where we discussed Gothicism with the main characters. Let's go!
I'm here with Victor Frankenstein. Okay, so I have a few questions for you, Victor. So, Victor, I know you've always been so curious and passionate about science, but what drove you to these passions?
Well, I guess when I was a little child, my curiosity of wanting to learn how things worked made me want to go into the scientific field, because I guess a lot of people turn towards science to find answers to a lot of things. And during my obsession with science and stuff, I was really curious if I could bring back someone from the dead, but you see, that didn't really work very well. I mean, I gave him life, but he ended up being like this awful monster. He's hideous, like awful. And so I just kind of abandoned him somewhere in the world, somewhere probably killing someone. I don't really care. He's not really important to my life anymore. Just kind of put that behind me. And now I found a way to like express my feelings in nature without causing any more damage than I already have done. Now we're here with Robert Walton. How are you today?
I'm okay, I guess. I mean, I don't have any friends, but that's okay.
So, are you okay if I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
First, how do you seem to relate to Victor or the monster he's created?
Well, that's a difficult question. I guess the main way is that we're all lonely. Like, we don't have close friends.
So, Robert, my second question for you is, it has a lot to pertain to Victor. Are you okay answering a kind of question like that?
Yeah, sure.
So, what did you learn from him? Like, why did you choose to tell his story?
Well, I think it's important for people to know his mistakes and know not to repeat them. The main thing I learned from him is that good people can do bad things, and that sometimes the consequences for doing bad things aren't what you expect.
I'm here with Frankenstein's monster. What were the effects of you being created?
Well, obviously, as I was created, my creator, Victor Frankenstein, he obviously made me very unattractive and ugly, as you can see, or not, as you're not even looking at me, because of how ugly I am. And I was just rejected from society because of my appearance, and they didn't even take into consideration my personality or how I felt towards them. They just took into consideration my appearance and how ugly I was. So I want Victor to feel that same way, and I want him to feel how lonely and how abandoned I was.
Hello, I'm here interviewing Elizabeth Lavenza. So Elizabeth, how do you feel about Victor's treatment of you?
Well, in the end, I think he always loved me. Even though he might have viewed me as just a piece of property, I will always be his number one.
In Frankenstein, both Frankenstein and his monster are monsterized throughout the book. Frankenstein's monster is compared to Satan and called monster, fiend, and demon throughout the book. He also stands out because of his appearance, which makes people believe the worst of him, no matter what he does. But his appearance isn't completely different from us, so he stands at the gates of difference, which is also part of monster theory. He didn't choose to be created, but was created by society, and his monstrous actions were also caused by society.